Today a toddler tried to shoot me with his finger as I drove by, so I slowed down and shot him back. I looked in my mirror and saw him fall over. It made my day. What's something unexpected that totally made your day today? After a difficult week, I decided to get my mind off my problems and take my 4-year-old daughter to the park for a picnic. It started to rain on the way there. She was disappointed, so I told her we would stop at a bakery to get some cookies. When I started to pay, I was told that they don't take credit cards for charges under $5. For some reason, I didn't think to just buy some extra cookies, so we walked back out to the car to see if I could find some change. I heard a knock on my car window and there stood a man in the rain with our cookies in hand. I opened the door and he said, "It's on me." I couldn't let that sweet girl leave without a cookie. I'm sure he had no idea how this small gesture brightened my day. That guy is the man. I am a cashier at Walmart. This happened yesterday, but I want to tell it anyway. A lady, maybe in her 30s, who you could obviously tell didn't have much money, came through my line with groceries that added up to being just under $300. When she tried using her debit card, it kept declining it. She got really embarrassed and started apologizing to those behind her and then to me and said to take it all back, that she couldn't get them. A man that was 3 customers behind her started saying excuse me to those in front of him and made his way to the front. He pulled out his debit card and paid for her groceries. She started crying, and I did too. I'm a very emotional girl, and asking the man for his phone number so she could pay him back. He refused. He paid with his own money. He didn't use a credit card. I've had a few different experiences like this while working as a cashier, but none like that. It was heart-touching. TLDR. A man bought almost $300 worth of groceries for a not-so-wealthy woman because her debit card was rejected. Get that man a Reddit account so I can upvote him. The night maintenance man for the building in which I work is an old, early to mid-60s, Chinese man. Every time he walks by the front door to my work, we fake kung fu fight through the windows. Sometimes he wins, sometimes I win. All the times customers and passers-by are confused as frick as to what the frick is going on. I was driving home from work one day after a long, heavy rain. I had a crappy day for some reason. Can't even remember now what had happened. 3 teenage boys were standing on the sidewalk waving for cars to drive through a huge puddle on the street, and there were so far no takers. They were waving at me now. We locked eyes. I gave a firm, satisfied smile and a single, knowing nod. They cheered and jumped up and down and moved right to the edge of the curb. I dropped into 4WD and hit the puddle as fast as I could. I unleashed the entire puddle on them. They were still cheering as they passed out of sight in my rearview mirror. I smiled the whole way home. That's cute. Mine isn't as fun, but it's still about a child. I used to work a drive-through window at Starbucks. A woman came through and ordered enough coffee to wake up a small nation. As I'm handing her her millionth cup of coffee, I see a little girl in a car seat in the back. I look at her, while the mother's head is down, and playfully stick out my tongue. Without missing a beat, the girl sticks her tongue out with force and then starts laughing hysterically and clapping. Her mom looks up and says, "Wow, she must really like you." I just smiled. She still didn't know I stuck my tongue out. And as she drives away, I see the little girl waving at me with her tongue out. It did make my day. I want to know more about all that coffee. Sitting waiting to go at a red light, windows rolled down. I have a particularly violent sneeze just as another vehicle is turning left in front of me as the driver screams, "Bless you." One time walking out of a public bathroom, a kid did a dance move as he walked in and looked at me as to say, What you gonna do?" We had a dance off for about a minute, in complete silence, while I was still in my work clothes. Never saw that kid again, but if I did, I would totally initiate a dance battle. I love random connections in bathrooms. I was once at a festival and was sitting in one of the toilet cubicles and was singing Lola, the Kinks. The guy in the cubicle behind me joined in for the chorus. It was a beautiful moment. I got the wrong amount of change from a little kid home alone today while delivering, which I hadn't noticed. On my way back to the pizza shop, they called and said the kid had requested I go back to get my change. It's cool to know he took the opportunity to make sure I got my tip. Given your name, I'm curious if you went back and got it or let him keep it to save on gas. Friends and I were playing frisbee in the park and drinking beers, just hanging out. Suddenly we hear woo-woo and an adorable little kid, probably 2, with an afro comes running over looking at the frisbee flying through the air like it's the most incredible thing he's ever seen. It was goddamn precious. We kept playing, and he watched, wide-eyed, yelling whoa with every throw while his parents stood nearby. Made frisbee much more entertaining. That is incredibly adorable. I wish I could still view the world with that much wonder. This afternoon I was on the subway and made eye contact with an infant. We then had a staring contest until the kid inevitably blinked and we both laughed. At brunch with colleagues. Who has time for all of that extra work? We all have families. And Metataturtat has a bunch of cats I lulled. And cried a little inside. In college, I was driving to the beach in my new red Mustang. The road to the beach was through backwoodsy areas, and I was flying through the turns. As I came around a curve, there was a little boy driving a Hot Wheels Mustang in his front yard, same color and model as mine. He froze and looked at me. As I passed, I gave him a thumbs up and he returned it. It was a sweet moment that always stayed with me. Edit. Apparently, I meant Power Wheels, not Hot Wheels. I thought you were going to say you hit the kid. A girl told me I made her night as I accidentally walked into the ladies' locker room at the gym while looking at my phone. Awkward, embarrassing as all. I've seen this in a movie on Xvideos. At a grocery store sitting on a bench near the exit, a mother and young son were checking out in front of my roommate. I was spacing out when I noticed the young kid staring at me. As soon as I return eye contact he starts chanting ducka 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 ducka, and sort of tiny step marching toward me. Me, my roommate, the mom, the cashier. We all looked at each other and shared a good confused but delighted laugh. I don't understand what ducka is. There were a few kids pretending to pull a rope taut across the road, and everyone was just driving through. When it was my turn, there was no one behind me, so I jammed on the brakes and flung my body back as if I'd hit a wall. They loved it. 3. Not today but 2 days ago, I was rushed to the ER after loading on various pills in an attempt to commit suicide. I fell unconscious and woke up to a little girl holding my hand while I was on the hospital bed. She's the 7-year-old daughter of one of the nurses and someone explained what I did to her. She wouldn't let go of my hand for anything and I just started bawling because it finally sunk in that I wasn't alone. I started work in an inner city after school program this week. So far, every day has been incredibly rough. The kids don't have a lot of respect for me yet. I'm 22/WF and the only new staff member, and the only staff member who's not a teacher by profession. And I've had a hard time feeling like I'm never going to connect with these kids. This sucks, because I love kids and do generally have a natural gift for working with them. Today, I was walking down the hall and one of the students met me in the middle, gave me a massive hug and said I love you. Well, I reckon warm fuzzies abounded. Not today, but I once drove by a school bus full of elementary aged school kids, probably 6-10-year-olds. Just to be in, but I made a super ugly face at the kids on the bus as I passed them. 20 minutes later I had already forgotten about the bus, when I look to my left and see the same bus passing me, and every little kid on that side of the bus was making the ugliest face back at me. They had tongues out, eyes pulled down, fingers in their noses, just saying hey frick you buddy. Don't tell me kids have a short attention span. They planned and waited for that revenge like Russell Crowe in Gladiator. Was sitting at a bench after school waiting for the bus, and one of the volleyball players, whom I've never talked to, walks up and tells me that my new haircut makes me look really handsome. I was never the best looking guy in school and this, coming from a beautiful girl such as that, made my week. Just a thought, but you might want to rethink how attractive you are to others. Anyway, glad it made your week. I was walking through an elementary school to pick up my GFS daughter and this 6-year-old boy stopped me and said, "Do you have a GF?" I asked. What he then commented, "You look good. I bet all the girls wanna marry you." I felt smiley all day, still waiting for that diamond ring. I was in PetSmart kneeling on the floor peering into an aquarium. when a little girl who resembled my sister who had passed away a year previously scooted next to me, put both hands on the aquarium with her eyes huge in amazement and did one of those super dramatic gasps like it was the prettiest thing she had ever seen. She was probably 3 or 4 and it made me cry. Your story wins this thread. Made me cry. A grandfather and grandson, about 4 or so, were wearing matching Batman t-shirts. I complimented them on it, and it looks like I made their day too. My internship that was meant to end today was extended for 6 weeks. Not anything crazy, but it works with my school schedule and gives me that much more cash for the rest of the school year. I went on a road trip tonight. A friend took a random exit, stopped at a diner, sat across from a couple where the man was singing Broadway flawlessly, joked around, and after they left, we finished our food 10 minutes later. We asked for the check and the waitress said the man paid for us already. It wasn't today, but recently I experienced something that made me smile while waiting in line at Boston Market. It was really hot inside. The line was moving at a crawl and we'd been waiting for at least 20 minutes. So it was basically just a breeding ground for crankiness. The woman in front of me in line was waiting with her 9-year-old daughter, but instead of ignoring her daughter to tend to her phone like many parents would do in this situation, she actually interacted with her. She was laughing and joking and treating her daughter like a sentient being instead of texting and leaving her kid to find her own entertainment. It's sad that something as simple as treating your child like a human should put a smile on my face, but in this particular environment it truly seemed like a rarity. My daughter is 5 and very intelligent. She likes to try to read magazine covers or talk about the stuff she sees in the stores still. I get dirty looks all the time for playing or laughing with my daughter while standing in lines. It is ridiculous that people can get angry that I enjoy my kids' company, but it is really nice to know that other parents do too. I have so much fun playing peekaboo with toddlers in line that I've made male parents nervous. It's curious. As an approaching middle-aged guy, I've had 6 kids and have no trouble whatsoever relating to them, and whenever I interact with kids without the express permission of the parents, usually it's me responding to the toddler waving or talking to me in the first place. It's nearly always the males that are offended or nervous. Women chuckle, usually engage in some small talk. Men too, sometimes, but more often they pack up their kids and shuffle off as quickly as possible. As a father, I always shared my kids and chatted openly with anybody who thought they were funny, so I guess I just don't get it. Men. It's sad to live in a society where people would react that way. Unfortunately, I do understand why they might, though. As I was taking my shopping cart back, I noticed a little girl doing the same. I looked over at her, acted like I wanted to race. She quickly began pushing her cart and beat me to the cart catcher. As we're walking away, I said, "I'll beat you next time." Without hesitation she said, "Doubt it," and got in the backseat of her mom's SUV. Here's the best part. As she strapped herself in her car seat, she looked out her window and threw up the peace sign as her mom drove off. With that kind of moxie at such a young age, she's gonna big things when she grows up. While talking with a guy I had just met at Subway about his day, got distracted and held up the line. Felt really bad and apologized to the 2 ladies behind me, and they said, "Oh, it's no problem. If a girl as beautiful as you are were in front of you, I'm sure you wouldn't mind either. Don't really consider myself to be that good looking." So it was a really nice surprise and made my day. You are Canadian. This is an assumed behavior of us. 2 stories. 1. Didn't happen today, but someone who I lost contact with emailed me a few days ago, and we've been emailing nearly every day since. I literally danced with joy. 2. Today was my last day of retail work. Oh yeah, 2 weeks of shadow shifting for my MTB class, then hopefully getting into the EMS field. I am a white police officer. I was momentarily dumbfounded when a black kid, about 6 years old, waved enthusiastically at me in a rough neighborhood. I waved back like I was waving at Cal Ripken, my all-time sports hero. He asked if I could turn my cruiser's lights on for him. I told him I could do it for him but asked if he'd like to do it himself. I showed him which button to press and he lit the cruiser up. He sat and asked me what it was like to be a police officer for about 20 minutes. My entire shift was made just talking to that one kid. I was driving and these kids were making the blow your horn signal. No one was doing it. So I hit my horn and let it go for a good 50 yards. Looked in the mirror and saw them all excited and laughing. Made me feel good. The little kid dressed as Batman who rang my doorbell today asking if there were any bad guys in my house. My response, no, but if I see any, how will I call for you? He whipped his cape and said, I'm always watching. Then he ran off. I feel pretty safe knowing my house is being watched by the Dark Knight. About 14 years ago I was heavily involved in mixed martial arts. My school asked me and a few other students to head over to Times Square to hand out some cards for free classes. So we all got into uniform and hit the streets. About 20 minutes into it a 7-year-old child walked by with his mother, saw us, and started straining to get a card. His mother was obviously in a rush and didn't want to be bothered. As the kid was almost literally being dragged away he looked back at me in desperation. Not having anything to lose I took a card and flipped it at him as if it were a frisbee. It curved around a couple of pedestrians, skipped over the hood of a parked taxi, and headed right for him. And he snatched it out of the air like a total pro just as it reached him. He looked at me with a huge smile and I bowed to him in return. Bonus. I saw him in class a couple of days later and convinced his mother to sign him up. I helped train him for nearly 3 years before he moved away. I like to think I left a positive impression. We sing new made-up lyrics to already existing songs at work. Today my coworker yells out, oh, I wanna watch you, P. Welcome to the men's room. We got fun and games. I laughed hysterically. We got phone numbers, baby, but we don't know the names. About 3 hours ago I was waiting for the light to change at an intersection so I could cross the street. Two thugs walk up and one of them walks to the center of the crosswalk against the light, turns, and waves me through, saying, "IT's safe. I got you covered." He stood there holding his arms up, blocking traffic so I could cross the street. Not today, but yesterday, I went to school feeling pretty crappy and stressed about the rest of the day. As I'm walking to my first hour class, I pass an acquaintance of mine in the hallway. He offered a hug, and I finally gave in after declining the first time. As I'm letting go he says in the most sincere way possible, "Have a good day." I honestly teared up a little. After that I promised to myself I'd stay positive and have a good day, and I did. It's amazing how simple words can change someone's whole attitude. A girl said have a nice day before leaving my desk at work today when I'm in the midst of a pre-life crisis. I'm 23. Put a smile on my face today. I was having a rough couple weeks during fall semester of college this past year. This girl I had been talking to sent an anonymous card with $10 in it. I immediately had a very large grin on my face and it made my day. I received a belated birthday card in the mail from a friend I made on the internet. He and I have never met in person and he took the time to send me a birthday card all the way from another country. It really made my day. I got an email from my dad today. I've been trying to get hold of him and mom for a week because they were supposed to be coming to visit. Dad's email confirmed they are showing up on Sunday and leaving next Saturday. So excited to see them. Had to work third shift Christmas Eve to Christmas morning at a 24/7 gas station and was pretty pissed off about it. Parents kept running in to buy tape, batteries, candy, etc. Around 2 AM. Some guy came in looking for tape, but the last one had been sold an hour earlier. I gave him the roll of tape we keep behind the counter and said super cheesily, "Here's my Christmas gift to you." He thanked me and ran back to the car. An hour later, he comes back with the leftover tape, thanks me profusely, and hands me a $20 bill, saying, "You saved Christmas for my kids. This is my Christmas gift to you." Whoa, this made me cry. People can be so awesome. Thank you for being awesome. Not my story, but my boyfriend's. He was working at Pep Boys and a couple came in with their child, who was holding a stuffed Pikachu. When my boyfriend rang them up, he asked for the kid's Pikachu. He took it and pretended to scan it, and then said, "We've restored your Pokemon to full health. We hope to see you again." The little kid jumped for joy. Nurse Joy, that is. Well, I can't find my wallet, so that's the unexpected thing. I haven't been able to eat all day because I'm at my boyfriend's place and he just moved in, so there's no food or cookware or anything here. When I find my wallet or dinner magically appears, it will make my day indeed. My husband was goofing off with his computer, so I came up behind him and started caressing his chest, taking my time, then slowly started going down his stomach, at which point I hear his computer say not quitting. Dirty girl. Evidently, the goofing off with his computer was getting his camera to look at his face and not his chest so he could chat with his friends. My 6-year-old was getting out of control, bouncing around on the couch all hyper. I yelled, "You're too hyper. Stop." He stopped, stared me in the eye and sincerely said, "I apologize." I was walking to class and I thought to myself, man, I really wish I ran into people I actually cared to see more often. I look to my left, and I see the girl I'm interested in walking towards me. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.